let you know that this is the first time that the library is doing kind of a dual Zoom and in person. So bear with us. We're trying to figure out what the best way technologically and everything is, but we're so glad that you've joined us either via Zoom, and there's a couple people in the room too. So just know that that's going on. So if you see me kind of looking someplace else or something like that, you know that I'm not just staring off into space, I'm looking at people that are in the room. So that just gives you an idea. So today we are recording this meeting, so you can, it'll be up, I believe, for 2 weeks after this. So if you like it and want to tell a friend about it, or, you know, miss something and want to listen to it again, you can absolutely do that. And I'm also using a computer that's not my own, so we all know how that goes sometimes. So today we're talking about get motivated, stay motivated, and thrive. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Jennifer Barnes, and I'm a professional organizer and speaker, and I speak all over the country on organizing, parenting, small business development, communication, all sorts of things like that. Come on in and have a seat. This is my family. So my husband and I have 5 kids. We had 5 kids in 5 years. So we have a set of twins, which is how that's possible. Otherwise, you know. But so we have 4 daughters. So actually our oldest our twins are not the 2 blondes and not the 2 redheads. They're the blonde and the redhead on the ends. So we had 4 girls in the space of 3 years. We currently have 4 daughters in college. And then our son is a senior in high school. And then that's my dog. So I just put him there because he's super cute and doesn't argue with me and likes me all the time. So, which the kids don't always. But I only show you the family so you know that I understand what it is to work with different personalities. I understand chaos. I understand having to help people be motivated and not motivated in different things. I understand busyness, disorder, all of that kind of stuff. I don't want you to think, I think it's always frustrating when I hear, I heard an organizer speak probably like 19 years ago, and she gave really good tips. But then I realized later that it was just her in a 1-bedroom apartment and nobody else. And I had 5 kids under 5. And I remember going like, that's really nice. If it's just me, I can organize anything. But when you account for all these other people, it's a heck of a lot harder. So I just remember feeling frustrated. So I may not be exactly in your shoes, but just know I understand chaos and I've dealt with a lot of it. So that just that's the only reason I bring up my family, not so you can be like, oh, I only have 1 child and I still have trouble with this. I don't have kids and I still have trouble with this. And she has 5 and she doesn't. No, it's just purely so you know I understand chaos. All right. About my business, again, I've been speaking for over 20 years. I speak all over the country on organizing, parenting, small business development, communication, all sorts of things like that. I do have individual organizing clients that I work with. I help them organize whether they're time management and things like that, their homes, their businesses, their offices. So I always tell people I can make any area, any closet look nice and the garage. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Let me move that. It's so funny that that's not showing on mine. I wonder, you know what? Hang on 1 second. I'm going to look at this other computer. I think it's on hers. Yeah. There we go. So we have 2 computers going too. Thank you. Okay. So I have individual organizing clients. I always say I can make anything look nice, but I'd rather teach the people how to do it, because to me, organization is a life change. It's not just a space change. It doesn't do any good if I make a closet look nice and you can't maintain it. That's a waste of time. It doesn't do any good if I help you with a time management thing that works for me, and then you go off to college or you are working or you're in your house and it doesn't work for you. It has to be a life change. And so my greatest joy is when clients come back to me and they send me a text and they say, look what I organized on my own based on what you taught me. And I love that. To me, that is the best thing in the world, is they come back to me and say they did it without me. So it's probably not a great business model when you work yourself out of a job all the time, but I love that because I'm teaching people how to do things. Virtual organizing is something that, just as you can imagine, in the past year I've been doing a lot. And that's kind of a neat opportunity because it's kind of a mix in between speaking and in-person organizing. Some people just need someone to get them started, or just need someone to give them show the space to, and give a couple tips and some homework and some accountability. That's when the virtual organizing is a really good thing. So that's a little bit about my business. Now the topic we're talking about tonight, it's kind of one of those things that it's very personal, right? What I have trouble being motivated to do is going to be different than what you have, you and any of you guys. So we need to be who we are, and we need to look at what we want to do and why we want to do it. And just remember that we're unique, and it is not going to be the same for everybody. And I think that's important to own, because so many times we think we're cookie cutter, or it's like, well, they're doing that, I should be doing. No, we got to look at who we are. And on the other side of that, it's really broad. There are definite things we can learn from each other, and when it comes to any topic. There are tips we can all use. But I always tell people this: when you are taking advice, whether it be on relationships, organizing, home decorating, communication, motivation, anything like that, take whatever the person's saying and twist it and turn it and look at it through your own glasses, through the lens of your life, and put it in how it fits in your life. It might not fit right away. You might have to twist it and turn it. It's like a puzzle piece. You can't just drop a puzzle piece and have it land fitting perfectly. Sometimes you got to turn it, and that's okay. So take whatever advice I give and see if it fits in your life. If it doesn't, it's all right. But there will be plenty of things that will fit. Just take it from your lens. I think that's really, really important. Another thing is the why of this topic. I'm a big believer in, if we understand the why, we are motivated to do the how. So I always look at, it's really nice, like when you're organizing, why do I organize? Then we're motivated to do it. So the reason I chose this topic and I started talking on this topic is, in 20 years of working with people, I realized motivation, or the lack of it, is at the basis of everything. Sometimes it's at the basis of just getting up in the morning and doing our day. Sometimes we're not motivated to even do that. So being motivated is really at the basis of everything we do. So it's a crucial thing to figure out how to do it. And the bottom line is, sometimes there's every single human being on the earth has times when they're not feeling motivated. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how driven you are. I don't care how type A you are. Everybody has situations and times where we don't feel motivated. So it is one of those things that I found just over the years that it's a crucial thing to kind of get a handle on. So that's kind of the why behind this topic too. So now we looked at that. We're gonna talk about some of the obstacles. If I can get my thing to move. Hang on a second. Oh, technical difficulties here. Hang on. There we go. What gets in our way? Naming the obstacles. You might be like, I don't want to talk about the obstacles. I don't want to talk about the things that stop me from being motivated. I want to talk about how to get motivated. But if you think about it, I call it name it to tame it. So when we call out the things that are getting in our way, we kind of take some of their power away, right? I mean, we do. So if something's getting in our way, we take the power away by naming it. So that's part of what I want to do. Is it doesn't do any good to put our head in the sand and think nothing gets in our way, because things do get in our way. We might as well call them out. So they're kind of like the monsters or the roadblocks in our way. And the only way we're going to get through them is to name them and to work our way through them. So two of the biggest roadblocks I have seen, and I will tell you, these are two things that I mentioned every single solitary talk that I give. It doesn't matter whether it's on marriage or time management or organization or communication or kids. It doesn't matter what it is. These are two roadblocks that I've seen get in the way of getting anything accomplished. The first is comparisons. That's a pretty big thing. So how many of you guys are on or ever look at social media, right? Ever, right? And I'm sure the people virtually too, you can sit there and just know, you're probably going, oh yeah, that's a big thing. But the comparisons are huge. When we compare ourselves to other people, we basically can't see ourselves clearly enough to even get anything done. We're so busy looking at someone else that we can't see what we're doing, and we can't see what we have to work on because we're so busy comparing. Another thing is, when we are comparing ourselves on social media, we are comparing our backstory to somebody else's highlight reel. That's a dangerous game if you think about it. So we're comparing our backstory with somebody else's highlight reel when we look at social media. That's not fair. That's not fair to us. you know? And if you look at, like I always tell people, the picture I showed you of my family, you're like, oh, wow, what a nice family. They all get along. They're all standing upright. No one's arguing. What a nice picture, right? So I'm going to tell you the backstory behind that. So that picture was taken at 8 a.m. on December 23rd, I guess a year and a half ago. And I say that because I told my children, and I had at that time 5 teenage young adult children, that I said, we are going to have a family photo session at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. You can imagine they were not happy with me. And not to mention, the place we were having the picture taken was a half hour from our house. And remember, I have 4 daughters. So getting ready for a picture is not a piece of cake. So not only did I say at 8 a.m. where they had to be, I kind of said, these are the basic colors I want you to wear. And I want you to be, well, we had to take 3 cars to that photo shoot, I just say family picture. And because we were all going different places afterwards, by the time we got there, one person had stolen someone else's sweater. My son was bugging everyone. They were arguing. People were crying. It was a disaster. That's what I remember. And you saw that picture. So my backstory, I'm seeing one of those pictures, and all I'm seeing is the chaos that went into it. Just like we were talking earlier with someone here about a wedding, right? You see when you're taking those pictures that there's all this stuff going on behind the scenes. And then we post these beautiful pictures of the wedding and go, oh, it's all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. You know, so just keep that in mind when comparisons are not fair. We're comparing our backstory with somebody else's highlight reel, okay? And it really gets in the way of us trying to improve ourselves and motivate ourselves because we're so busy looking at other people. Okay. The next thing is things that don't match your priorities. You might be like, what does that have to do with motivation? I've seen so many people worry about so many things that they don't even care about because they're so busy thinking I should do this. And then when they really look at it, they realize it's not even something that is important to them. But they're so busy just trying to do the things they think they should that they don't even examine what's important. So I always have clients, one of the first things I do when I work with people, even with organizing, is I have them sit down and write what are the top 10 most important things in your life. And a lot of times people are like, what does that have to do with organizing? You're an organizer. Why are you talking to me about that? And the reason is years ago, I talked to someone and she said, can you organize a craft area for me? And I was like, all right, I can, no problem. And I was talking to her and I realized she didn't even like crafts. In fact, she hated them. And I looked at her and I said, why on this earth do you want me to organize a craft area? And she said, well, I should have a nice craft area, right? And I was like, oh, no, no, no. And you might be, well, that's extreme. I would never do that. All the time, there's things like this. All the time. Like an example from my own life is I feed my family and I feed my family pretty decently. I do. I hate cooking. I don't like grocery shopping. I don't like putting groceries away. I don't like the cooking. I don't like anything relating to it. I do it, and my husband's a much better cook than me. I do it because I had 5 kids in 5 years and my husband couldn't always feed them. So I learned to cook, okay? But the organization level of my kitchen is down here. And I have friends that cook with things, and you guys may cook with things, with spices that I never even heard of. So there's certain people that the organization in their kitchen should be up here. I've had to let that gap go and know mine is okay for me. Okay, so that's an example of sometimes we can do things because we think we should. And again, I looked at what's important to me and I measure what I'm doing with things. So look at your priorities, and that's really, really important because we often don't realize we're making decisions based on what we think we should do versus what's important to us. Okay, so give yourself permission to let go of the things that don't match your priorities, and it gives you more energy and focus to actually concentrate on the things that are important to you and that you want to be motivated to do. So those are 2 of the biggest roadblocks or obstacles or comparisons and things that don't match your priorities. Now, this is a long list and you might start to panic you. This is not to scare anybody. Like, why would you put a whole list of the, oh, can you well, oh, no, that's okay. We didn't, until he pointed out, I didn't realize it was up there. Okay, sorry. The list of is not meant to make you be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I had all these obstacles. No, that's not why I'm doing it. But like I said, it takes some of the power away from them when we realize. So as you're doing this, kind of look and go, maybe some of these are not your obstacles. You might be like, that one's a piece of cake, but some of them might be. So kind of write down the ones that are obstacles for you. Because again, just recognizing it is important. So I'm going to go through them. The first one is fear. You might be like, well, fear, there's two, fear of failure and fear of success. A lot of times people think like, what do you mean fear of success? I'm not afraid of being successful. You'd be surprised how many people go, I can't do that because what if it goes really well and I can't handle it? You might be like, that's ridiculous. No, I've seen it over and over and over again. Okay, so fear of failure, that one we can kind of wrap our head around, and fear of success. Those can be ones that get in people's way. The next is lack of control. How many people are perfectionists? Any perfectionists here? Okay, a couple, somewhat. And you might be like, I'm a perfectionist in some things and not the other. Okay, that happens. But the lack of control. When we are doing something that's hard, the idea that we might not be able to control or we might not know what we're doing can be terrifying. Okay, so it can be very uncomfortable, and we don't like to be uncomfortable. So that's one of the things that we do. Next is too busy. I'm sure all of you at some point, every single one of us at some point has said, I'm too busy to do ... You can fill in the blank. Okay, that is a huge roadblock. Feeling alone. It is so easy to feel like we're the only ones who struggle with ... And I will tell you this, I don't care what you're thinking that you're struggling with, there is somebody else out there that is struggling with the same thing. It is. So I don't know if any of you, I mean, do you guys have any things in mind that maybe, what are some things that motivation-wise do you feel like you're struggling with right now? Is there anything that you guys you don't have to share. I was just saying, because sometimes and those of you who are virtual, if you want to put in the comments something that maybe you're struggling with motivation-wise, that would be it. Just again, the idea of that you're not alone and stuff. So I mean, the one I'll use a lot is exercise, right? Because every single one of us, I don't care what shape we're in, at some time have dealt with lack of motivation to be active, right? But feeling alone, you're not alone. The next is overwhelmed. Too many things to have to be motivated to do. That's a huge one. Oh my gosh, I have to be motivated to be a good friend. I have to be motivated to be healthy. I have to be motivated to eat right. I have to be motivated to, whatever it is. There's so many things. So the overwhelming part of it. Weak reason for doing it in the first place. An example of this is if someone says to you, all right, you need to eat better. Okay, well, that's nice. Don't we all? All right. That's not really motivation. And then a doctor comes to you and says, if you don't eat better, you're going to be on insulin within the month. Guess what? We all of a sudden have a stronger reason to be motivated, right? So that weak reason for doing it is a really real thing. Sometimes that just means that's not something we have to deal with right now. But sometimes we need to look deeper and figure out what is our reason for doing it. The next thing is lack of clarity. What is entailed? Sometimes you can be like, I can't even wrap my head around this because I don't know what it means to do this or what's entailed in it. So lack of clarity is important. Distractions. The little things in our life take up the most space. See, what's an example of one, right? Social media, Netflix, TV news. I mean, they're little things. They can take up massive parts of our day. So the distractions, those little distractions are huge. Procrastination, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Every single one of us has procrastinated on something at some point in our life, at every single one of us. It might be something small or whatever. The next is physical things, sometimes exhaustion and illness. Sometimes our body keeps us from being able to be motivated, or it's one of the things that can be a roadblock or obstacle to doing something. It doesn't have to stop us, but it can be one of those bumps in the road that makes it harder. Next, mental and emotional. Sometimes there's a fear and anxiety. And when I talk about that versus the first fear of failure and success, that's something that, you're going to have. It doesn't matter how, even if you're healthy mental health-wise. But sometimes there's a mental, emotional, the really chemical anxiety and depression, and that's real. And that's real. And to get help and to deal with that is a real thing, and that's okay. But that is something that can also be a roadblock. I'm not saying it's something that we just get over, but just to recognize that that's something that can be in our path and keep us from doing things like that. So now we've called out all the monsters in the room, right? We talked about all the obstacles, again, not to make you panic and not to make you crawl under and decide I can't be motivated now, there's too many obstacles. It's just naming them, okay? So now how do I possibly get motivated? I loved this little graphic because just showing him the idea of visualizing, showing him pushing the obstacles down, I thought was a really cool, just kind of thing to be aware of. So now getting going, right? Those strategies for getting motivated. And I'm going to go through these and kind of, like I said, you had your obstacles. So maybe you mark down what are your obstacles. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts. What are some of the obstacles that you guys feel like you're working on? Or you feel like from that list, what are the ones that you think that are most prevalent in your life? Anyone have any thoughts? Yeah. Exercise, yeah, or whatever. What do you feel like is getting in the way of that? Procrastination. So someone said exercise is the thing, and then procrastinate. Oh yeah, well that's huge, right? That's huge. But there's so many things. So maybe you have an idea what your obstacle is. Now, same thing with the strategies. You don't have to do all these strategies. I'm going to give you a list of them. Don't be like, oh my gosh, I have to do all these things. No, you don't have to do all those things. But look at these and go, this is one I think I can take and do. Okay. First is take a break or set a boundary with social media. Some of us can take a break. Maybe say, okay, I'm only going to allow myself. So some of us can set a boundary. Maybe you say, okay, 15 minutes a day or an hour a day is my social media, whatever that is. Or after 6 p.m., I'm not doing social media, or before 7 a.m., or whatever it is. Some of us can put a boundary and it's okay. Other times in our life, for the distractions or social media, we have to maybe take a break. Say, you know what? I'm not going to go on social media for a week, or I'm not going to watch Netflix for this weekend, or, you know, so sometimes you can do a boundary. Other times we need to cut it off for a little bit in order to kind of reset. And that's okay. But it's important to realize that those are necessary sometimes. Sometimes the distractions are so big that we can't just hop over. We need to get it out of our way first. Okay. So that's the first thing, is consider taking a break or putting a boundary on what it does. I use social media as your distraction, but think about the other things. If having the TV on in the background in your house, believe it or not, that takes up mental energy. You're like, and I have people say all the time, but I'm not watching it, but it's on and it's taking up space in our brain and our energy and our attention that we don't even realize it's taking up. So consider what might be the distractions in your life. And what now, if somebody has little kids, I'm not saying you can just get rid of this distraction. There's things like that that doesn't work and we can't do that. But again, that's when you put boundaries on it. Maybe they go to bed at a certain time, because that allows you to have the time without them, or whatever it is. So consider taking a break or setting a boundary. The next part is dream. I feel like, oh, this is kind of like, oh, so up there, pie in the sky. No, but it's really, really important. This helps us know what's important when we dream. Think about it. What I want you to do is, and you can do this while I'm talking. So I'm not going to be offended if you guys, your attention's split and you're looking and writing and things like that. But I encourage you to set a timer for like 10 minutes sometime. Pick one of the things that you want to be motivated to do. One of the things. So I'm going to use exercise as an example. Okay. Take one of the things, and I want you to spend like 5 minutes or 10 minutes and brainstorm, right? Everything that you can think of that has to do with that one thing. So if yours is exercise, maybe you spend 10 minutes, you write everything you can think of having to do with exercise, you and exercise, whatever it is. There is no editing allowed. There's no practicality allowed. I want you to just write it all down. You guys know what a brainstorm is, right? You just get all the thoughts off your head. Okay. And that's really, really important to do, because and you might be like, well, I have 4 different things I want to be motivated on. I have 4 different things. I have exercise, I have healthy eating, I have reading, learning more, I have whatever it is. Don't do too many. Because we talked about too many choices, the overwhelm. Pick one thing and work on that one thing. So take that one thing, brainstorm about that one thing. Okay, so you have your dream. The other part of this dream a little is I want you to take your list that you just brainstormed, and then I want you to break it up into today, next week, next month, 6 months, a year, maybe 5 years. So you have this whole list, just mark by it. this is something I can do today. Because some of the things are going to be little. Other things are going to be, because remember, we're dreaming. Other things are going to be maybe you thought do a half marathon. Maybe that's 5 years down the road. I'm just, again, because I'm using exercise as the example, do not feel like you have to have exercise as one of your things. I'm only picking it because it's one of those things that we can all in some way relate to, but take that and take your list and divide it up by those times, by today, next week, next month, next year, and 5 years. This gives clarity. So you dreamed a little, and then you're all of a sudden giving yourself clarity by taking that list and kind of putting a timeline to it, okay? Next thing you notice on there is set goals. Out of this, you're kind of, when you're putting it on a day or next week, you basically set goals. You're looking, maybe it says, walk halfway around the block. That's something you can do today. See, so out of your brainstorm came these little ideas and big ideas that you can plug in to something I can do today, little steps, and then maybe bigger steps and things like that, okay? So from there, set your goals, okay? Pick one from each category. You're only allowed now. So maybe you have 10 things you could do today. You're only allowed one goal today. So if it's walk halfway around the block, that's your one goal for today. And then I want you to have one goal for next week. Only one. And then one goal for 6 months from now. So I don't want you to have, run a 5K, swim swim a mile and all this all 6 months from now. Just pick one, because that's what we do so many times. We put too many things and we're like, you might be like, well, I won't get overwhelmed, Jen. It'll be fine. We get overwhelmed. Because guess what? The things we're getting motivated for are not our only things in our life, right? If we're exercising, that's not the only thing we're doing. We also have to function on a daily basis and do all these other things. So just keep that in mind. Just have one goal for each thing. That's set your goals. The next thing is record it and post it. I am not saying you have to post it on social media. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying take a Post-it note, okay? Post it on your bathroom mirror. Put your goal for today. Put your goal for next week. Put it on your laptop. Put it on your bookshelf. Put it on the corner of your TV if you need to. Post it so that you can see it. When we post things, when we write things down, we do a couple of things. When we write something down, it makes it real. It does. It makes it real. You all of a sudden took something that was just in our head and we made it real by writing it down, okay? It also increases accountability, is huge. When we schedule, and I'd say schedule our goals. Put them in your calendar, because I don't know if you've ever heard this. They say, if you want to know what's really important to somebody, look at their bank statement and their calendar. And that will show you what's really important to people. And I work with people on time and task management all the time. And I will tell you, sadly, they don't usually match up. I ask people, what are your priorities? And then I have them look at their bank statement and their calendar, and they don't usually match up. Because we inadvertently end up doing things and we're not checking them against what our priority is and stuff. So when you put your goal, if you want something to be important to you, if you want a goal to be important to you, put it on your calendar. It's amazing how it elevates in importance. It's a very, very powerful thing. Okay. Another thing you can do is your goal for today, put it on the top of your to-do list. So how many people have a to-do list ever, right? We a lot of times have to-do lists. So put it on the top of your to-do list. You might be like, well, I'm going to remember to walk around the block. I don't need that on my to-do list. Put it on your to-do list. Right? We put all the things we don't want to forget on our to-do list. If you don't want to forget your goal, put it on your to-do list. It, again, elevates it in importance. Very, very important thing. Now, all of those things I just talked about help with the clarity. They help with help you not feel overwhelmed because you pieced it by piece. Now, these next couple things, inspirational stories, it helps you with the idea that you're not alone. Remember that barrier of you feel alone is read inspirational stories. If you need, if you're dealing with learning a new language, maybe that's something you want to be motivated to do, or whether it be exercise or something, look at motivational stories of people who've overcome the things or got motivated to do the things you're doing. Maybe you're doing a degree program or whatever it is, or learning to cook a new recipe. Maybe you're like, okay, I've never cooked and I want to learn to cook. So again, read stories of people who have done this, and it can help you and it can motivate you. Another thing it does is, next thing is together is better. The bottom line is doing it with someone else. It really makes it a lot easier. I will tell you, one of my daughters, my fourth daughter, is my gym buddy right now. So she goes to the gym with me. It is a lot easier to go to the gym when you have someone else saying, hey, Mom, are you going to the gym? You know, it's a lot, or you have a friend that says, I'm going to go for a walk today. Or, you know, your sibling, you know, for those of you out there who might have younger kids, there's nothing like telling or even a grandchild or something, tell them, I need to exercise more. Can you remind me to exercise? Kids love to call out the adults in their life and say, hey, remember you said you were going to exercise? There's nothing like that little voice of accountability, but that together is better. It really is. If it's other things like maybe a Facebook group, there's a lot of different groups that have accountability and different things. I'm writing a book, and one of the things they had us do is get 2 accountability partners that can say, hey, how's your writing going? You know, and sometimes it's like, oh, don't ask me this week, you know, but it's that accountability, and that's huge. That's huge. So together is really generally, it is better, and it can be really hard, but it is better. The next is know the why. Remember I talked about the why of exercise, right? If we just, because we should, that's not very powerful, or you're going to be on insulin within the week or within the month if you don't do it. That's also powerful. So whatever it is that you want to do, what's your why? If you want to learn a new language and you're going to be traveling, like say you want to learn Spanish and you're going to be traveling to Spain in 6 months, that's a pretty good why. You know, that's a motivation. If you are, whatever it is, you know, if you are, you know, going away to school and you want to be healthier mental health wise, so you're doing certain things, that's a pretty powerful why. So whatever your thing is that you want to do, know your why. That's unique to each of you. I can't tell you what your why is, but I will tell you, look into that, figure out, maybe ask somebody else, you know, what do you think my why is? Sometimes people are more what do they say? You can't see the forest through the trees. Sometimes we're too close to ourselves to see something. And if we ask someone else, someone you trust, you don't want to just ask someone who might not be nice to you, but ask someone you trust, you know, for their insight on it. That can be powerful. Okay. So these are things that will help you to get motivated. And that's a really powerful thing. Now, once you are motivated, sometimes the hardest thing is to keep going. So a lot of you might be like, well, you know, it's really easy. I'm fine to get motivated, but I just can't keep it going. Okay, so here's some things. And again, you don't have to do all of these things, but look at what are the ones you struggle with and take those and do it. The first is know that really being motivated is a mental game. It's a head game. It is. It is really a head game. So it's one of those things, a couple things with that is first, just know that anything worthwhile really takes discipline. Did you, or do you want, I think you were stretching. That's okay. But just know that anything worthwhile takes discipline. I wish I could tell you that you're not going to need discipline to do anything. Just, you know, it's a piece of cake. That's not reality. And I tell people I am realistic. I'm not going to stand up here and lie to you and say it's a piece of cake. Just, I think going in, knowing, okay, this is going to take some discipline is much better than, it's kind of like when you get married, if people say it's a piece of cake and then you get into the marriage, you're like, well, no one told me that it was going to be this hard. It's really, you feel alone. You feel like, so I believe in telling you the truth up front, that it's going to take discipline. And then at least, you know, you're not the only one that is like, what the heck? I didn't realize this. You just know going in. So know that everything worthwhile takes discipline. Remind yourself of your successes. If you're going to start a journey, trying to work on something, remember we said doing the goals of today, of next week, look back through those, record those also, because then you can look back and say, you know what, I did that yesterday. Yay me. I did that last week. So recording your successes is really powerful because it's a mental game and we need to see those. When I work with people on time and task management or organization, I tell people, write everything down, like do the small steps. Don't try to remember, because the bottom line is I don't care who you are. We like to cross things off lists. It feels good to know that something's done. Even if you're like, I'm not a list person. Oh yeah, let me tell you, every single person likes to see something go done. Even if you're not a list person, it just feels good. Even if someone says to you, maybe you're not the list person, but someone comes to you and say, hey, it's done. You're like, oh, weight off my head. So record it. Show yourself it's done. That's huge. That's a very powerful thing. So knowing your successes. The other part is visualization. Sometimes people really like to do this. If you're going toward a career and that's something, or you're going toward a degree, or you're going toward, being more healthy or whatever it is, visualize what at the end. Visualize what the outfit you want to fit into. Visualize the career you're going to have. If you're going to be a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer, whatever it is, or a mechanic, visualize that. Well, I'm going to be there. Visualize what it is to walk around the block, whatever it is you're doing, or cross the finish line in the 5K, or, so many different things. Or to close the last page of a book if you want to, because believe it or not, I know I'm standing in a library, but reading a whole book sometimes, especially for people who are maybe in a full-time career or with little kids or whatever, sometimes reading a whole book and getting to that is an accomplishment. So to visualize closing it and being, I'm done, that's huge. So some of you might be like, that's ridiculous. I read 5 books a week. Yes, but some people don't. So that's, again, goes back to that uniqueness. What we are trying to be motivated to do is unique to us, and that's okay. The next thing is, this is going to sound funny, and I don't mean it, but brainwash yourself in a good way. So you hear advertisers say it takes someone an average of 7 times to hear something to actually hear it, right? I don't know if you've heard that. They say it all the time, where it takes people an average of hearing something 7 times for it to sink in, which is why in commercials, they say the same thing over and over and over and over again, okay? So I always thought of that. So with my kids, I had certain, I don't want to say mantras, but certain things that I always said to them. And I felt like if I can get them to the age of 18 and they can repeat back to me 5 lessons that I had brainwashed them, 5 things they came away with that they knew without a doubt, that I've done something, right? And so do the same thing for yourself. If there is something that motivates you, if there's a verse, a saying, a quote, whatever it is that motivates you for the thing that you are working on, post it, memorize it, say it over and over to yourself. Because you're basically, what happens is when we get where we're frustrated, all sensibility goes out the window and we go back to what we are comfortable and we know. So when we're stressed and we're not feeling motivated, we'll go back to the thing we remember all the time. So if I was listening to a podcast the other day and she had a list of like 30 Dr. Seuss quotes that were motivating. And I'm like, well, again, if there's a Dr. Seuss quote that motivates you to do what you're doing, post it, memorize it. And then when you're feeling frustrated, go back to it and say it. That's a powerful thing, because remember, it's a mental game. It really is a mental game. The last thing is, as far as the mental game, is capture your thoughts. There's a book called Out of My Head book, and it's by Jenny, and Jennie, and I can't remember her last name. It's called Out of My Head. And it's basically the idea of we have thoughts. So say you have a thought of, this is terrifying to me, right? That's maybe your thought. You can either take the thought of fear and spiral downward, or you can take the thought of fear and go, you know what? I'm not going to let that be me, and spiral upward. So it's capturing your thoughts. We each have a choice. Every thought we can have it lead to a lower behavior, or we can have it lead to a positive behavior. So that's a really good, but it's called Out of My Head. And I think Julie is looking it up, so she might.
That's not Sharon Draper.
No, it's Jenny. Oh, I'll think of it. But anyway, but that's a really good book that helps with this mental game. The next part is routine. So name a routine that you do every day.
Jenny Allen.
Jenny Allen. It's Jenny Allen, out of your head. So, but name a routine you do every day. What's a routine we do every day? Get out of bed?
No, get out of your head.
Get out of your head. Yeah, that's the book. Yeah, that's the book. Yeah. What's a routine you do every day? Brush your teeth. No, seriously. That's exactly. We brush our teeth. What's another, like I always think of getting ready for bed. Whatever you do, getting ready for bed. What's another routine that? Take a shower. Yeah, like getting dressed and getting ready in the morning. Okay. And I say these, you're like, what does this have to do with? Do you have to think about those things? Right? I always think, like, sometimes I can get ready for bed and be half asleep doing it. And I go through my routine and I do what I've always done, right? And I just get ready for bed. Or you're exhausted in the morning, you take your shower and you just do what you have to do. And you don't think of it. Routines are great things because when we're not motivated, sometimes we don't want to get out of bed and we drag ourselves out and we go through our routine and we get ourselves to do what we're doing. Sometimes we are so tired, we don't even want to do our bedtime routine and we just go through, I take my contacts out, I do all the different things because I just need to do it. We don't do it because we're motivated to do it. We do it because it's such a habit. Okay. So when you're trying to be motivated to do something, if you can make it a routine, then on the moments when you're not motivated, it's going to be such a part of your routine that you're going to do it out of habit, do it blindfolded. So I encourage you, whatever you're trying to do, if it's reading a book, if it's exercising, if it's, eating well, or if it's, having a certain snack at a certain time, whatever it is, do it the same, do it basically, if you can, the same time every day, the same pattern. You might be like, well, that's really boring. But trust me, if you do that, you're more likely to just plod through the routine of doing it even when you don't feel like it. Because routines are the things that keep us going when we don't even have the energy to do it. So that's a huge thing. So routine, don't let routine scare you. It's not boring. Routine doesn't mean boring. Routine just means you can do it without thinking. And that's a good thing. Because that's what's going to keep you going when you don't feel like going anymore. Okay. The next part is reward yourself. Businesses give rewards. Schools give rewards. We don't use them for ourselves nearly enough. So if you're like, yay, I walked around the block yesterday. Yay me. Give yourself a reward. I did my week goal. Yay me. Do the reward. Reward yourself. There's something called in NickWigwall.com did a Stay Motivated article, and he mentioned something called Ulysses Pact. And what that is, and I thought this was awesome, said, for example, if you want to start running, okay, and you're running with a friend, give a friend a series of $20 checks and say, every time I don't come, you get to keep that check. Guess what? Our loss aversion, that's actually a behavioral economic term, loss aversion. We don't like to lose things. The desire not to lose something or desire to keep something is more powerful to us than the desire to gain something. So that's why they'll say, hey, you can have this free thing because we don't want to lose it. And then you buy this because we don't, but then if you don't buy that, you're going to lose this free thing. We don't want to lose our thing. So the desire to not lose that $20, it doesn't have to be $20, but I thought that was a fascinating thing. It brings in this loss aversion. So if you want to motivate yourself, what a great way to do it. Want it to be a trustworthy friend. If you're giving a series of checks to, you're like, I'm trustworthy, trust me. No, but but I thought that was a great thing. What a great way to do the rewards and motivation. And if it's going to help us, that's called the Ulysses Pact. I thought that was a great thing. The next is make it fun. Make it fun. Okay, I like to read. I really like to read. I'm not a fan of exercise. I make myself do it. I do not get motion sick because that's the key to this. I read while I'm on the treadmill. And I can go really fast at a really high incline and be reading. Friends of mine are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do that. I would be throwing up on the side. But I can do that. So what I do is I get a really good book and I only allow myself to read it when I'm exercising. And let me tell you, there are times I have found myself on the treadmill way longer than I wanted because I was in a really good spot in the book and I didn't want to stop. And so that's just an example of something I did because it makes it fun for me. It makes it palatable for me to do. But if it's fun for you, I have a friend that walks with another friend and that's fun for her. So whatever you're going to do, if reading is something you want to do more, maybe you join a book club because doing it with other people makes it fun or whatever it is. But think of what makes it fun, or learning a language with another person because it's fun to talk to them or something. So make it fun. That's a huge thing. Have a sense of humor. You're going to mess up sometimes. You're not going to get up and do it. And things are going to be able to laugh at yourself. Be able to laugh at yourself. I'm not saying be able to laugh at other people, That's not nice. Be able to laugh at yourself. And I think that's a huge thing with motivation, okay? The next one, as far as keeping going, is post your goals. I said that before, post your goals. That is a powerful, powerful thing. And I thought this is interesting. This is called the Seinfeld strategy. And yes, you heard right, Seinfeld as in the comedian, Seinfeld, okay? He talked about this, and this was in that same article by Nick Wigwell, Stay Motivated. He talked about what Seinfeld said, is if we do, say you have a big marker board calendar, and I'm going to use the exercise example. Say you're going to exercise every day. Make a big red X on each day that you exercise. Okay, it's called a double motivator, because it gives the positive reinforcement of seeing another big red X come. But what happens is if you get enough red X's on there, our brain doesn't want to break that chain. Our brain does not want there to be a spot where there's not a big red X. So we're motivated to keep it from to keep filling that spot. So we're motivated by seeing it, and we're motivated by that loss aversion. We don't want to lose our streak. And that's a powerful thing. And it's only powerful when we can see it. So posting the goal and then having those big red X's, isn't that amazing that plays with our brain? We crave keeping that because we don't want to lose it. Okay, so that's another way of like posting your goals, and they call it the Seinfeld strategy. I thought that was pretty interesting too. Took something that, again, that's not rocket science, but he used it in one of his comedy sketches, and they started calling it that. The next is distractions list. You might be like, I don't need to list my distractions. I already know I have a lot of them. No, but it takes the power away from them. Sit down and say, okay, what is getting in my way? In my life, in my home, in my mind, what's in my way? Write your distractions down. Call them out. Call them out. And that's the powerful thing. Name them to tame them. The next is one step at a time, little chunks at a time. Choose your battles. Do not try to be motivated on many, many things at one time. That's not going to go well, and it's just going to end up giving up. Little tiny steps are a powerful thing. But like I said, that's why I had to do 1 day, 1 week, whatever it is. And if it's, and sometimes maybe for, like, say the exercise example, maybe it's going, you know what, going to the end of my driveway. That's my first step. That's okay. That's okay. You go, I do that twice a day. All right. Now it's going to my mailbox, if that's farther down, whatever it is, little bites. Because as soon as we do one, we're motivated to do the next. But if it's too big and we can never get to it, we never get that success. So little steps are important. Another thing is set a timer. Might be like, well, that's a waste of time. I can just do it. And no, our brain goes into efficiency mode and focus mode when we have a timer. And I'd be like, no, it doesn't. Well, so think about this. Are we not the most efficient people in the universe? If someone calls us pre-pandemic or even now and says, hey, I'm in town, can I come over and visit? You're like, yeah, I'll be there in 20 minutes. You hang up the phone. Are we not the most efficient people in the entire universe in that 20 minutes? Right? Are we not incredibly efficient? I mean, it's amazing. We can go from no energy to we fly around because all of a sudden we have a timer. We have a timer and we have no choice and we have to do it. So timer gives us efficiency. And again, if you're like, well, that's only because people are coming. No, think about this. If you're in school, right? And they don't just say to you, whenever you get a chance, finish your math test, right? No, they say you have 50 minutes starting now, timer going, start. They do that because if they said, whenever you get a chance, people aren't going to finish. They might never finish it. And my husband's a high school math teacher, so I could say that as far as, but the thing is it puts your brain in efficiency mode. We are so trained by timers that even cooking, like you set the oven timer, casserole is going to be done in 50 minutes. I have to make a salad. Guess what? I'm really efficient. Might not be efficient until the last 10 minutes, but then we're like, oh, I have 10 minutes before dinner's going to be ready. I got to get going. So the point is the timer puts us in efficiency mode. So if you have little chunks of things you're going to do, set a timer that will change your brain. And then you'll also be more focused on that. The next thing is take a break. Might be like, well, what does that have to do with it? Sometimes we need to give ourselves permission. Say whatever we're doing takes longer than 5 minutes, and we only have 5 minute chunks of time. Give yourself permission to do something fun in between it. and then go back for that. So set a timer for 5 minutes, do a little of what you're doing. Set a timer for another 5 minutes. Say, I get to just relax and do what I want for 5 minutes, then set another timer. So sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to take a break in the middle of the thing we're working on, because our brain can only get rid of distractions for so long. And everybody's brain is different in how long they consume distractions out. Okay, so sometimes we need to do that. That basically, the reason our procrastination happens is because our brain wants to do something new. Our brain goes, oh, I'm done with this. So if we fight that, sometimes we're fighting a losing battle. But if we give ourselves permission to take a break and do something new, we release that. Our brain goes, okay, now I'm back to what I was doing. That's okay. Give yourself permission to that. Doesn't mean you're failing. Okay. The next one is ask for help. Sometimes having a coach, a mentor, an accountability partner, a professional, whatever it is helpful. And just know it does not mean you fail or you're weak or you're anything to have to hire somebody or to ask someone to help you. I always tell people, like, professional organizer, right? Organizing is not rocket science. Exercising is not rocket science. Cooking is not rocket science. Talking about our feelings is not rocket science. But sometimes it helps to have a personal trainer give us an exercise routine. Sometimes it helps to have someone teach us how to cook things. Sometimes it helps to have an organizer come in and help us. Sometimes it helps to have a counselor to be able to talk to. It's just an outside perspective, and that is okay, right? We have to get rid of that idea of it. I asked for help, I'm weak, I'm a failure. No, you're human, and that's okay. The next is connect with others. You're not alone, and that's powerful. That's when the Facebook groups are huge. Just knowing that there's other people in the world struggling with the same thing is amazingly powerful. The last three things kind of go together, but each day is new. Sometimes you don't do your daily goal. Guess what? Tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day. And that's okay. Pick yourself up, forget yesterday, go on to the next day. And that goes with give yourself grace. Forgive yourself. If you don't, be like, oh, look, there's a big white spot in the middle of my red X chain. All right. Give yourself grace. You know what? I didn't do it. Okay. Next day's new. That's okay. And the last part, the have a plan, is you're going to have times you're not motivated. So have a plan for what happens when that happens. Do you have someone you're going to call? Right? If you're doing this and you just know, and it makes it sound like I'm be like, well, Jen, you're just making it sound like I'm going to fail. So just set yourself up for failing. No, I'd rather you set yourself up for reality. To me, that's what it is. It's set yourself up for reality, not failure. Just know that there are going to be, if you're living in the same world I'm living in, there are going to be days you're not feeling like doing anything. Or you're not feeling like doing the thing that you're trying to be motivated to do. So just know that that's going to happen and have a plan in place for when it does. Because it's having a plan B, and that's smart. It's not failing. Okay. So those are some strategies for keeping going as you're going. Now, this next part really doesn't matter what you choose to do. So say you're like, you know what? I'm not really wanting to get motivated to do any certain thing yet. That's okay. But these are some things that you can do to help you thrive just day in, day out. In between, because there are times in our life when we're not really working toward a certain goal. We're just going. And that is reality sometimes too. Okay. But to know, okay, here's some things that we can do that will help us to be the best we can be each day is huge. And it's actually an acronym, THRIVE. So the first is thankful. You hear this all the time. It sounds cliche, but the reason we hear it all the time is because it's true. Being thankful is one of the most powerful things that you can do to turn anything around. It doesn't fix all the things in the world. It doesn't fix all the things in your day. It's not a magic bullet, but it certainly makes it easier to play the mental game. And the first is, it's really only, and there's a book called 1,000 Gifts. You might have to look up the author. But 1,000 gifts, and it's, I think it's Joanne Kirchhoff or something. I have so many books in my brain, but the 1,000 gifts, what it is that basically you write, it talks about writing a thankfulness list or gratitude list. And you start writing, you're writing 1,000 things you're thankful for over time. Like she did it in a notebook. I've done it on my phone. And you just add to it. It's not like you have to have it all done in a week. It's over however long it takes you, you start writing this list. And what I learned that it does is thankfulness is a muscle. When we don't use it, it gets weaker and weaker. And when we use it, it gets stronger and stronger. And we become more thankful and more thankful and more. So it's just like anything else. It's a muscle that can get weaker or stronger depending on when we exercise it. So by doing this list and just gradually writing this list, you learn to, because if you're looking for 1,000 things you're thankful for, you start going, wow, that cloud in the sky I'm thankful for. Wow, my Ann Voskamp, yeah, during Kirchhoff Notes. So Ann Voskamp is 1,000 gifts. It's a deep read. I'm not going to lie. It is not a fluffy read, but it's a good read. It really is, and it's powerful. But if you get nothing, even if you don't read it, just know the idea of writing a thankfulness list over and over, it basically trains you to be looking for things to be thankful for. So it really trains your brain. So if the point is when if we are not thankful when things are good, guess what? When things are bad, we're not going to go to that as a fail safe. We're not. When things are bad, we're not going to go to that because it's not what we're used to. If that muscle is weak when we need it, it's not going to be there to use. So practice it when things are fine so that you automatically go to that when life is falling apart. Okay. So it's like a muscle that needs to be exercised. And also thankfulness is the only way to stop time. I'd be like, oh, I can stop time. But think about it. If you're sitting, like I just got back from a trip to Costa Rica. And there were times I sat where I was at the beach and I'm like, I'm thankful for the sand. I'm thankful because what it does is it makes you look at that moment. So that's what I mean by it's the only way to stop time. So if you're sitting with a good friend, you're like, oh, I'm thankful for that friend. For one moment, you've frozen it. Because you're looking right there. You're not looking, oh, I have to do this next, or oh, I'm sad that I didn't get that done. You're looking right where you are. So thankfulness is the only way to stop time. And that's a powerful thing. The next part of the acronym is HELP. So I tell my kids, serving and giving is part of living. That's one of those mantras. Remember I said I had certain things? Like if they can grow up knowing serving, giving is part of living, I brainwashed them. That's one thing worth brainwashing. But the point is help others. That's the first part. Help others. It can be a charity or it can just be whatever is put in front of you that day. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can't be, maybe it's just holding the door open for someone or smiling at them. Letting them go in front of you in line. Not yelling at them because they irritated you. Whatever it is, that thing is powerful. There is nothing like helping others to get ourselves out of our own head. So when you're having a bad day, there's nothing more powerful than helping somebody else because it gets us out of our own brain. And when our own brain is suffocating us because we're cycling all the things we're worried about and stuff like that, if you can help someone else, it gets you out of your own head. And that's a powerful thing. Next part of help it is help yourself. If you need for mental health, if it needs to be for physical health, if it needs to be whatever it is, help yourself. That's okay too. That you always hear self-care is the term that's thrown around all the time. I don't care what you call it, but just know you're worth helping. So help yourself. So, because sometimes people are really good at helping other people and then they don't help themselves. And that's not good either. Okay. The next thing is help the situation. Any situation we're in, sometimes they're tension ridden, all of that. You can listen. Stopping and just listening is a powerful thing. Sometimes we have to apologize to help the situation. And sometimes we have to empathize to help the situation. So it's help others, help yourself, and help the situation. Okay. The next part is respect. That's pretty self-explanatory. The only things I'm going to say with that is respect yourself and respect other people. We can't just respect other people and not respect ourselves. And we can't just respect ourselves and not respect other people. So just know that demand respect because we are worth it. I mean, again, sounds cliche, but so many times we don't think that. Everyone else deserves respect. I don't know. Demand that respect. Treat yourself with respect, right? Respecting our body, respecting all of that kind of stuff. Okay. And then others, even when we don't agree with them, that's hard, but respect, right? All the time, and words and actions. Sometimes we're really good about respecting with words, but not our actions. Sometimes we're really good at respecting with our actions, but our words say something different. Okay. The next part of thrive is improve. Dream. Reach for the stars. Try new things. If we don't dream, we get stuck. And we're never too old to dream. I will say this. I skipped improve. I'm sorry. I skipped the I. You're probably like, see, I can't spell thrive. I can't spell. But the I is improve. Be teachable. Be coachable. Things like that. Always learning, growing, challenging, things like that. In the world, like improve the world. So it's improve our environment, but also improve ourselves. I will tell you, this is the best gift I got. One of the best gifts I got. My grandfather lived till he was 96. My grandmother lived to 91. My grandpa, we always said, was always going to school. He had several degrees, but not only that, he was reading all the time. He was learning different computers and how to use different phones at the age of 95. My grandmother figure skated. She was a professional figure skater, opened a rink and opened all this figure skating until she was 90 years old. She was always learning and growing. My dad always says, this is whatever. He always says, I never needed to find a new wife because your mom reinvented herself every 5 years or so. She was always learning, always growing, and always doing new things. So that was my dad's joke, but it's just the idea of just always being in this mentality of I'm never too old and I can always learn, and you're never too young. You could both sides. You can always learn and improve. The improving yourself. When we improve our mind, we keep our body going too. The next part is the thrive is the vision. Dream. Part of that improving, we have to dream. We have to dream. I'm not good at dreaming. I'm an organizer. I'm practical. I actually struggle with the dreaming part. I am not a dreamer. I had to kind of learn how to do that because I don't do what are the grand visions? I just can't. My brain is practical to a fault. So that's something I try to work on. The last part is endure. The bottom line is everything worth doing takes persistency and consistency. We have to just keep going, right? That's the whole thing with motivation. Don't give up. Keep trying, work hard. And when things are hard, keep going, right? Keep persisting. So I know I'm giving you a ton of information. I've been talking, and I'm fully aware some of you may be sleeping. That's okay, because I'll keep saying things and it'll sink in. But here's a couple of reminders to go. So the first thing is let go of comparisons and things that don't fit your priorities. Biggest roadblocks to being motivated. Know your obstacles. I gave you that list. You might have other obstacles that I never even mentioned. Write them down, name them. That's huge. Call them out. Know your why. Whatever you want to do, why isn't important to you? Because your why is what motivates you to do the how. The why is important. Routine is always good. Whatever you want to do, make it part of a routine. Do it the same time, do it the same way. Just make it part of the routine. That will carry you through the times when you're not motivated. Together is better. If you can do it with someone else or just know someone else is doing it even in a different part of the country, that's better. Give yourself grace. You're going to have times you're not going to do it. You're going to fail sometimes and have to pick yourself up. Every day is a new day. Whatever you choose to do, even if you don't want to take on a new thing, you can thrive each day, the tools that I just said, okay? The thing I want to leave you with is you're only allowed to do one thing. Work on one thing. You cannot go, okay, guess what? I'm going to be motivated to exercise, to eat well, to read another book, and to take a new class, and to, oh my gosh, you're going to have yourself so overwhelmed that you're going to be not motivated and never do any of it. So one thing and only one thing at a time. When that becomes so routine that you don't have to think of it, then grab something else and do it. That's okay. Or maybe for this season you work on it, next season, but one thing at a time. You have to promise me that. Otherwise, it's going to be all for nothing. You guys who are virtual, you have this QR code, and you guys have it on your thing. So if you want to, if you guys used a QR code ever, if you have, well, that's okay, because what all it is if you have a smartphone, you can just point at it and it brings up a survey on your phone. You don't have to do it, but it's just a way, it helps me, speaking of improving and learning, it actually is a survey of the talk and it just gives me feedback, which is always scary. That fear piece comes in, right? But all of that, it just gives, and what I do is at the end of every month, I put everyone who's done the survey for me in a drawing, and I do a free hour of organizing. It can be virtual, it can be in person, and it can be for whatever you want it to be. It can be helping set a new routine up, it can be on a space, whatever it is. So, and if you don't want to use the QR code, I'd be happy to just send a link if you want to. So you can do that. I will send it to Julie, and if you want to do the link that way, you can do that on your computer.
I'll also include the books.
Yeah, you can do that. And, but so you can, if you can do this, that would be great, because it just helps me to know what I need to work on. If you guys have any questions, you think of them later, or just have a thought or need help with something, you can email me, call me, message me, text me, whatever you want. You can also follow me on all the social media. Every day I do different encouragement and information on everything from relationships to motivation to organizing to parenting to all different things. And yeah, I just try to, I have a Facebook group called JB's Organizers, where people kind of help each other and we go through different things. So it's, but thank you for bringing me into your home if you're doing virtual, and for being here if you guys are in person. So I'm happy to take questions if you guys have any questions, or if anyone virtually has any questions. And thank you for being flexible with the screen and the in person, because it's felt kind of weird, but I think it went well. I think it was good. So did you guys, I realize I'm not very tall, so you're probably trying to like see me over the computer. But do you guys have any questions that are here? I think and your brains are probably reeling, so don't stress if you don't have any questions, but pass them to me later if you do. And thank you so much for coming. So thank you for coming.
I don't understand how to get my phone.
Oh, the QR. Okay. Do you have your phone with you?
Yeah.
I can show you the QR code if you want.
I'm not very good.
No, that's okay. Don't worry. And like I said, it's that constantly learning and growing, and don't stress about that. So here. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. So here I'm going to show you. This is actually, and you'll probably see this more and more. All you do is open your camera. Okay. And so you literally, see it brought up a link. Just click on that. See it brought up a link up there? Just press it. Yeah, right there.